Between religious insults, a threat to destroy a civilization, memes depicting Trump as Jesus, and a fight with the Pope, you might have missed massive news of an historic clash between financial power and the public interest. And you might have missed the important fact that this week, the public interest won. A jury found Live Nation and its subsidiary, Ticketmaster, liable of violating 3 counts of federal and state antitrust laws, finding that the company operated as an illegal monopoly that locked out competition, coerced artists and venues, and overcharged ticket buyers for years. Corporate America is now on notice. The free pass era may be over, and any company that exploits its size and reach could be next, which includes the proposed Paramount-Warner Brothers merger already under close watch by antitrust observers. And here's something worth noting. In every previous civil monopolization case brought by the government, a single judge made the final call. This time, for the first time in American history, that decision was put in the hands of a jury of ordinary people. So let's talk about what just happened and why its implications go far beyond a concert ticket. Live Nation Entertainment, the parent company of Ticketmaster, has long been one of the most despised corporations in America, and not without reason. This is a company that controls roughly half of the concert promotion market. It owns venues, it manages artists, and it sells the tickets through Ticketmaster, the platform with which it merged in 2010 over the prescient objections of consumer advocates and competition experts. A merger the Obama administration approved with conditions that the company subsequently violated repeatedly. For years, if you wanted to go to a major concert, you effectively had one option. And that option came with lots of fees, service fees, facility fees, processing fees, fees stacked on top of fees, until the price you paid at the checkout bore no resemblance to the number you started with. And it turns out that the people running this company knew exactly what they were doing, and they found it funny. Like, really funny. Internet chat logs revealed at trial showed Live Nation employees mocking their own customers, joking about how easily they could nickel and dime fans. One exchange read, "I charge $50 to park in the grass, LMAO. I charge $60 for closer grass." Another read, "Robbing them blind, baby. That's how we do." Another one, quote, "These people are so stupid. I have VIP parking up to $250, LOL. I almost feel bad taking advantage of them. Bah, ha, 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 ha." The jury saw those messages, and the jury had something to say about them. Liable, liable, liable on all 3 counts. But here's what matters most about this verdict. It didn't start in a courtroom. It didn't happen because of regulators. It didn't happen because of politicians. It happened because ordinary people got mad enough to make a noise. The turning point was November 2022, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Millions of fans tried to buy tickets on Ticketmaster's platform, and they couldn't. The system crashed. People who had been promised pre-sale access were left with nothing or faced prices that had ballooned to 10 times what they expected. But it wasn't just Swifties. It was every fan who has been stuck on hold, watched a ticket price jump in the cart, paid to park at an outdoor amphitheater, and still couldn't bring their own chair without having to rent one. Even fans those executives bragged about robbing blind, baby. This time, people, led by angry Swifties, organized. They contacted their representatives. They showed up to Senate hearings, and the political system responded the way it should respond when people demand it. The Department of Justice soon launched an investigation in 2022. In 2024, the Department of Justice and 40 states filed suits, which is a rare bipartisan coalition stretching from Tennessee to Texas to California. The case finally went to trial last month. A jury of ordinary Americans sat through 5 weeks of testimony. They looked at those internal Slack messages. They saw how this company actually ran its business. They found it liable 3 times for everything. That is democracy at its best. Never underestimate an army of Swifties. But here's where the story almost took a wrong turn. A few weeks ago, I covered the antitrust scandal inside the DOJ's antitrust division. Just 1 week into the Live Nation trial in early March, Donald Trump's Justice Department, without warning and without telling its own trial team, its own prosecutors, announced that it had settled with Live Nation. You probably heard that news. The lead federal litigator found out about the settlement literally the same morning that the judge did. The judge was not happy with the backroom deal, saying, quote, "It shows absolute disrespect for the court, the jury, and this entire process. It is absolutely unacceptable." According to reporting by the Wall Street Journal, Trump himself was behind the seemingly abrupt settlement. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Trump had been personally calling aides, asking why the case hadn't been settled. According to the Journal, Trump had heard from Ari Emanuel, Hollywood super agent and former Live Nation board member, who reportedly urged Trump to resolve this. And on March 5th, Donald Trump hosted a White House meeting with Live Nation's CEO and the Attorney General of the United States and Department of Justice leadership. That same day, the settlement between DOJ and Live Nation was signed. But the story didn't end there, because remember, this lawsuit was brought by the Department of Justice and a coalition of 40 states. So while the DOJ decided to settle, only 6 of the 40 states that were co-plaintiffs signed on to that settlement. 33 remaining states and Washington, D.C. looked at the settlement and said, no, we're not stopping here. We're going to keep fighting. They brought in someone named Jeffrey Kessler, one of the most formidable antitrust litigators in the country, a man whose career reads like an antitrust Hall of Fame. Rolling Stone has actually called him an antitrust rock star. And with only 8 days to finish litigating the case for the jury, he helped those remaining 33 states win. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays put it plainly, quote, "This verdict sends a clear message. No corporation is too big to face justice. The Trump administration gave up the fight and wanted to let these companies off the hook easily, but we kept fighting for every Arizonan who has been charged too much by this illegal monopoly, and we won," end quote. This is the new and important reality taking shape in antitrust enforcement. A shift in power, with states increasingly stepping in when federal regulators won't. What this case exposed is something much bigger than Ticketmaster. For decades, antitrust law was guided by the idea that bigger is better. Vertical integration was efficient. Markets would self-correct themselves. Consolidation ultimately serves the consumer. That philosophy shaped decisions across administrations, Democratic and Republican. It's why this merger was allowed in the first place during the Obama administration. But a different view has been gaining ground, one rooted in the thinking of Justice Louis Brandeis, who believed that concentrated corporate power is a threat not just to the economy, but to democracy itself. This movement, also known as the Neo-Brandeis movement, puts you, the consumer, back at the center. It argues that the purpose of antitrust laws is not market efficiency for its own sake, but protection of consumers and of workers and of small businesses from the predatory behavior of monopolies. It's the difference between asking, is this good for the market, and asking, is this good for people? That thinking found its most prominent champion in Lina Khan, who was appointed by President Biden to lead the Federal Trade Commission. During her tenure, Khan fundamentally changed the ideological underpinning of antitrust regulation, upending business as usual at the FTC, striking fear into the heart of Wall Street. When Trump returned to power, she stepped down, and what replaced her was something else entirely, a revolving door of cronies and corporate allies that called to mind a return to the Gilded Age and the robber barons. But on Wednesday, ordinary Americans did what regulators wouldn't. They held a corporation accountable. That is the real shift. Before this verdict, many corporations operated on a quiet assumption that enforcement was optional, that with the right connections, the right lobbyists, the right pressure, the rules could bend. With this landmark verdict, that calculus just changed. This week's verdict is not the end. Live Nation plans to appeal. The judge still has to determine remedies, which could range from financial penalties to, most significantly, a forced breakup of Live Nation and Ticketmaster into separate companies. Such a breakup would rank among the most consequential antitrust actions in modern American history, and that's what the states are asking for. There'll also be a wave of private litigation. Once a company is found liable for monopolistic conduct, every venue, every artist, every competitor who was harmed now has grounds to sue. The bottom line, for decades, a company operated with extraordinary power, raising prices, limiting consumer choice, and doing so with the tacit permission of a system that chose to look the other way. The public pushed back through organizing, through political pressure, through 33 states that refused to accept a backroom settlement and kept fighting. And finally, through a jury of their peers, everyday people who sat in a Manhattan courtroom for 5 weeks, read those Slack messages about robbing fans blind, and delivered a verdict now ricocheting from boardroom to boardroom, where executives are now quietly asking their lawyers the same question. Might we be next? Americans today feel beaten down by a system that feels rigged against them. Cynicism in our institutions is at record highs in the face of an administration that was quite literally ushered into power by a coalition of billionaires. This verdict channels that anger. It speaks for a nation that has had enough. It's a resounding warning shot. The system is not untouchable. Corporate impunity is not simply the way things are. And when people organize, the oligarchs can be beaten. My next guest, the antitrust analyst Matt Stoller, has said it best, writing, quote, Ticketmaster was an iconic symbol of corporate lawlessness. The fact that they are now liable for lawbreaking says to all Americans that justice is possible against the powerful. This victory matters, and it's your victory. Congratulations. There is no official opposite to the word dissolution, but today we need one. I am re-illusioned.